When it comes to human interaction, words often take the center stage, but in truth, it is the body that rarely lies. When a woman secretly craves you but is intent on hiding it, her language of the body often reveals what her words and expressions try to cover up. It is in the little things, the way her eyes linger on you a fraction longer than they should, the way her body leans toward you when you speak, the subtle mirroring of your movements, that her true feelings find their voice. And yet, because these actions are subconscious, she may not even realize that she's giving herself away. Think about it for a moment. We've all been in situations where someone says one thing, but their energy communicates something else entirely. That is the paradox of hidden desire. A woman may tell herself she has to keep her attraction under wraps, whether out of fear of rejection, a desire to maintain her pride, or simply because the circumstances don't allow for openness. But when she's near you, her physical presence betrays her heart. She might sit closer than necessary, her knees angled in your direction, even if she's pretending not to notice you. She might fidget with her hair, touch her neck, or glance repeatedly in your direction, as if checking to see if you've noticed her noticing you. There's also the matter of eye contact. Psychology has long shown that the eyes are one of the most powerful indicators of unspoken emotions. If a woman is secretly drawn to you, her gaze may hold yours just long enough to spark something before she quickly looks away to avoid giving herself away. Or, paradoxically, she may avoid direct eye contact altogether, fearing that meeting your eyes will expose the feelings she's trying so hard to hide. Both extremes, lingering stares or intentional avoidance, can be signs of suppressed attraction. It is important to understand, however, that body language is not about isolated gestures. One glance or one laugh isn't enough to conclude anything. But patterns tell a deeper story. When you notice her body consistently leaning in your direction, her tone softening when she speaks to you, or her energy shifting whenever you enter a room, that is the silent language of desire at work. She may never say the words outright, but her body makes the confession she cannot bring herself to utter. And what does this mean for you? It means you must learn to see beyond the surface. It's easy to take words at face value, to assume that if she says nothing, there is nothing. But life, and especially attraction, is rarely that straightforward. If you train yourself to pay attention to the subtle dance of body language, you will discover truths that words are too guarded to reveal. In the end, the body is the stage upon which hidden love performs its quiet play. And if you're willing to observe, to read the movements she doesn't even realize she's making, you'll begin to see her longing reflected back at you in gestures too real to be denied. The silence of the lips is often the loudest cry of the heart. If the body speaks in ways that words cannot, then attention is the currency by which desire is often revealed. When a woman secretly craves you but pretends otherwise, one of the clearest signs lies in how she invests her attention. And it's not always the obvious, glowing kind of attention that comes with laughter and constant engagement. Sometimes it's hidden in the subtler forms. How she remembers details you casually mentioned weeks ago. How she notices the little changes about you that others overlook, or how she always seems to position herself in your orbit, even when she claims not to be interested. Human beings naturally direct their focus toward what matters to them. Attention is selective. It filters the world and shines a spotlight on what the heart cares about most. So, when a woman gives you more mental and emotional space than she gives to others, that is not a coincidence. She might pretend it's just casual curiosity, but curiosity sustained over time reveals far deeper motivations. If you mentioned an upcoming meeting, and later she asks how it went without you reminding her, that's not casual. If you change your haircut, and she's the first to comment on it, even before your closest friends, that's not accidental. It's a form of silent investment, a way of saying, "You matter to me," without ever letting those words escape her lips. But attention is not only about remembering, it's also about seeking. Pay attention to whether she finds reasons to enter your conversations or excuses to text you about small, insignificant things. It may seem lighthearted, but beneath it is a need to keep that line of connection open. She might ask for your opinion on a trivial matter, not because she can't figure it out herself, because it gives her a chance to draw you closer. These are not random acts, they're micro-expressions of hidden desire. Of course, she may disguise this attention with a cloak of nonchalance. She might shrug and act as though she just happened to remember or pretend that she was asking out of politeness. But the consistency of her focus tells the truth. You'll notice she remembers things about you that no one else does. You'll see her paying attention to your moods, adjusting her behavior when she senses you're off balance. This is emotional attentiveness, and it doesn't spring from nowhere. It grows from care, and care is rooted in craving. Here's the paradox. The more she tries to suppress her feelings, the more this attention slips through the cracks. Because attention cannot be faked for long. It always flows where the heart is invested. And so, while her words may deny, her actions reveal. She can withhold a confession, but she cannot withhold her focus. So, if you want to understand whether a woman secretly craves you, ask yourself, where does her attention go if it keeps circling back to you? Your life, your choices, your presence. Then the answer is already there. Hidden or not, desire always finds a way to focus on its source. Attraction, after all, is not merely about wanting someone. It is about caring enough to notice them. And in the end, noticing is the most powerful declaration of all. Silence has always been one of the most misunderstood languages of attraction. When a woman secretly craves you, but pretends she doesn't, it's often not her words that reveal her, but the spaces between them, the pauses, the hesitations, the unspoken energy that hangs in the air. These often carry more weight than any spoken confession could. Silence is not emptiness. It is a form of communication that reveals both restraint and longing. And when you learn to hear it, you begin to understand the truth hidden beneath her surface. Think of those moments when she grows quiet in your presence, not because she has nothing to say, because she feels everything too deeply. Sometimes she avoids words precisely because words feel too risky. To speak directly would be to expose what she's trying so hard to conceal. So instead, her silence becomes her shield, and yet, paradoxically, it becomes her loudest confession. A glance that lingers a little too long, the way her body seems to soften around you, the way she lets the quiet stretch between you instead of rushing to fill it. These are subtle cues of desire that her voice dares not carry. Psychologically, silence often points to emotional conflict. She wants to express what she feels, but fear, pride, or circumstance holds her back. So the tension leaks out in other ways. She may hesitate before answering your questions, as if measuring her response carefully. She may grow unusually quiet when the topic of relationships comes up, almost as though the subject touches a nerve too close to home. And sometimes her silence is less about withholding and more about savoring, the way she simply wants to be in your company, absorbing the moment without needing to dress it up in conversation. Culturally, we're taught to equate silence with disinterest. If someone isn't speaking, we assume they're disengaged. But in the dynamics of attraction, silence can often mean the opposite. It can be intensity, restraint, or vulnerability showing itself in a form that words can't carry. A woman who secretly desires you may hide behind composure, but her quiet presence often betrays the truth. Pay attention to how her silence feels. Does it feel empty, or does it feel charged, almost magnetic? That difference tells you everything. What's important is not to dismiss these silences or overlook them as nothing. In many cases, silence is where the most authentic truth lies. For a woman wrestling with feelings she doesn't want to admit, silence becomes her safest outlet. It allows her to be near you, to experience the connection without the risk of exposure. And yet, That very restraint is its own sign of intensity. So, when you find yourself in those moments of quiet with her, resist the urge to rush them away. Instead, notice the unspoken. Notice the way her eyes meet yours, and then retreat, the subtle fidgeting of her hands, the tension in her voice when she finally does speak. These are not coincidences. They are the language of someone who is holding back a confession she wishes she could release. And here lies the irony: the silence she maintains to protect herself often becomes the clearest evidence of what she feels. Because when desire is strong, it always leaks out, not in loud declarations, but in quiet pauses that refuse to be ignored. So remember this: silence does not always mean absence. Sometimes it means presence. Presence so strong, so overwhelming, that it can no longer be spoken. And in that unspoken tension, you will often find the clearest sign of hidden love. One of the most revealing signs that a woman secretly craves you, even as she pretends otherwise, lies in the contradictions between her words and her actions. Human behavior is rarely consistent when emotion runs deep. On the surface, she may insist that she feels nothing unusual toward you. She may dismiss any suggestion of attraction, or she may even project indifference. Yet, beneath that verbal layer, her behavior often tells an entirely different story. It's in this tension, the gap between what she says and what she does, that her hidden truth begins to emerge. Think about how often people use words as a mask. Words are easy to control. They can be rehearsed, measured, and tailored to conceal vulnerability. But actions, those subtle, unconscious gestures, are far harder to manipulate. A woman may claim she's not interested, but her body language, her tone of voice, or even the little sacrifices she makes for you can quietly betray her heart. She might say, "I'm fine," when clearly she's bothered by the idea of you giving your attention to someone else. She might brush off your importance with her words, while at the same time rearranging her schedule just to spend an hour in your company. This duality is not accidental. It's the hallmark of someone trying to conceal a desire they fear exposing. Psychologically, this conflict stems from the human instinct for self-protection. When attraction feels overwhelming, it can also feel dangerous. She may fear rejection, judgment, or even the loss of dignity if her feelings are exposed too openly. And so, she hides behind denial while her actions continue to betray her. This internal struggle creates contradictions. She pulls back just enough to appear in control, yet leans in just enough to stay close. Her words become the shield, her behavior becomes the truth. You'll notice it in the details. She remembers things about you that you barely remember sharing. She goes out of her way to show up in spaces you occupy, yet insists it's a coincidence. She gives advice, shows care, or offers support beyond what she might for others, but if confronted, she downplays it. What you're witnessing is not inconsistency, it's conflict. And that conflict is itself a loud signal of craving that cannot be fully hidden. Philosophically, this contradiction reveals a deeper human truth. People are rarely one-dimensional in their emotions. Love, desire, and longing often live alongside fear, pride, and restraint. What you see on the surface is only half the story. The richer story lies in those paradoxes, those moments when her actions step out of line with her words. That's where authenticity resides, even when she's trying so hard to bury it. So, the next time you hear her dismiss her feelings with words, don't just listen to what she says. Watch what she does. Does she lean closer while insisting she doesn't care? Does she act protective while verbally downplaying her concern? These contradictions are not accidents. They are evidence of emotions too powerful to fully suppress. And here is the truth worth carrying with you: actions always whisper what words try to silence. When her behavior and her language collide, trust the behavior, for in those contradictions, you will often find the purest evidence of desire she cannot admit. Another subtle yet undeniable sign that a woman craves you, even while pretending not to, is the way her emotions flare when other women enter the picture. Jealousy, when it comes to human behavior, is one of the hardest emotions to disguise. She may not say it out loud. She may never admit that the thought of you entertaining someone else bothers her, but her reactions will tell you everything you need to know. Even the woman who insists she's indifferent cannot help the small shift in her tone, the sudden withdrawal, or the sharp edge in her humor when she feels she's competing for your attention. Think about how universal this is. We all want to feel chosen, especially by the person who stirs something inside of us. When a woman secretly craves you, your attention becomes a source of both comfort and insecurity. On one hand, she feels drawn to it. On the other, she fears losing it. That tension creates emotional responses she can't fully control. Maybe she suddenly becomes quiet when you mention another woman. Maybe she starts to tease you, almost playfully undermining the idea of someone else, disguising her unease as a joke. Or perhaps she overcompensates, laughing a little louder, speaking a little faster, trying to remind you that she's still present in the room. These are not random behaviors. They are strategies, conscious or not, to manage the discomfort of feeling that her unspoken desire is being threatened. From a psychological perspective, jealousy is deeply tied to vulnerability. It doesn't come from a place of hatred or spite, but rather from the fear of displacement. If she didn't care, she wouldn't react. The very fact that she feels that sting when your attention drifts is proof that beneath her outward calm, you matter far more than she is willing to acknowledge. This is why jealousy is such a powerful signal. It exposes the gap between her denial and her truth. But here's where it becomes even more fascinating. Instead of directly confronting her emotions, she hides them behind a facade of composure. She may say, "It doesn't bother me," or "You can do what you want." Yet her body betrays her, arms folded, eyes avoiding yours, her laughter just a little too forced. Philosophically, this reveals an important reality about human nature. People rarely reveal what matters most to them in words. They reveal it in the places where they try hardest to conceal it. When you see a woman show signs of jealousy, even in small, seemingly insignificant ways, recognize it for what it is, a window into her unspoken longing. She may never articulate it, because to do so would mean surrendering control, admitting that she feels more for you than she intended. But the truth is there in the micro expressions, in the silences, in the way she shifts her energy the moment another name is mentioned. So don't underestimate these subtle cues. Jealousy, even when veiled, is rarely neutral. It is the heart's unguarded confession, spoken in the language of reaction rather than words. And that's the key to understanding it. When her emotions rise at the thought of losing you, it's not an accident. It's a revelation. At the end of the day, actions tinted with jealousy are not about control or insecurity. They are about care. And the more she tries to hide it, the more clearly it shines through. Remember this: her silence may deny it, but her reactions declare it. And often, reactions speak louder than anything she could ever say. One of the most revealing signs that a woman secretly craves you but pretends otherwise lies not in what she says or does directly, but in the energy she directs toward you. Pay attention to the way she invests herself, her time, her attention, her effort, in ways that seem subtle, almost disguised, yet carry weight when observed closely. Human beings don't spend their energy where their hearts are absent. So when you notice her showing up for you, checking in on you, or remembering small details you've shared, understand that these are not random gestures. They are quiet offerings of care, cloaked in the safety of casualness. Think about how much intention is hidden in the little things. She may send a text that seems lighthearted, but it arrives at the exact moment you need encouragement. She might remember the way you take your coffee, or the name of a book you once mentioned in passing and bring it up weeks later. Or she may linger just long enough after a conversation, as though reluctant to let the connection end. None of these are grand confessions. They don't scream desire, but they whisper it. And sometimes whispers tell more truth than declarations ever could. From a psychological standpoint, this behavior reflects what we call emotional investment. When someone goes out of their way to consider your world, to anticipate your needs, or to simply ensure that you feel seen, it signals attachment. It's her way of staying connected without exposing the depth of her longing. She craves you, but she fears vulnerability, so she allows her care to flow through small actions instead of spoken words. And yet, it's precisely in those small actions that the truth shines brightest. A woman who doesn't care will never notice the details. She won't remember the stories you told months ago, and she won't rearrange her schedule just to find herself in your presence. But the woman who secretly desires you will. She will find reasons to cross paths, to be part of your orbit, to ensure that her presence touches your life in some meaningful way. Even if she pretends it's just coincidence. Philosophically, this reveals something profound about love and longings. What we truly desire always finds a way to express itself. Suppression does not erase attraction, it only redirects it into subtler channels. Her hidden craving becomes visible in the ways she invests in you without acknowledgement, because energy cannot lie. Where her effort flows, her heart inevitably follows. The danger, of course, is that such signals are easy to overlook. We often expect love to be loud, obvious, unmistakable. But in reality, some of the deepest emotions are spoken in silence, through consistency, through effort that doesn't demand recognition. And when you notice these patterns, the quiet sacrifices, the remembered details, the carefully disguised support, begin to see past the mask she wears and into the truth of her desire. So if you ever doubt whether her feelings run deeper than her words admit, look not at what she says, but at what she gives. Her energy, her time, her attention, they are her unspoken confessions. And the woman who pretends she doesn't crave you may never put it into words, but she's already told you in everything she does. Remember, this desire may disguise itself, but devotion always leaves traces. And when you learn to read those traces, you'll recognize the truth. Her silence is not emptiness. It is longing carefully concealed. And the question you must ask yourself is simple: will you keep ignoring what her actions are already making clear?